with me, this is my first public speaking. I am a person of Indian origin. And the reason why I'm here is I see everything that's been happening here and I can relate to another fascist who's made our life hell. It feels like you're living in a dystopian movie. You go to a movie, you watch something and you feel like, hey, that's not gonna happen in real life. But you see this now in Portland. You saw that this week in New York City. So I like to share a story. This is a story of my real life and a lot of people like us and why it is important to end fascism, right? Well, we also have a fascist ruler. India is ruled by Narendra Modi and he endorses Trump and Trump endorses him, right? So we had a big rally in February in midst of Corona crisis where Trump visited India. So what's the story here? What is that something we can relate to is why we fail to stop fascism or how we fail to stop fascism. That's the story that I'm going to say, because in 2014 when Narendra Modi was elected, we thought, okay, this is a mistake. Next election, we'll be able to vote him out. But we all went to the polling booth when it was time to vote. We voted against him. The public sentiment was against him. But when the results came out, we were all shocked. Second time, he came back. How did that happen? Consolidation of power. Every single system that's created to put him in check is now controlled by him. And we're seeing something similar here. We've never thought that election results, even after election result, a president could say, hey, I don't agree with the results, so I'm not going to walk out. Have we ever thought of a situation when that's possible? Right? But that's happening now, and it happened with us. 2024, when he's due for election next time, we don't know if we will be able to vote him out. That's why we've started the fight now. For the last 8 months, ever since he came back to power for the second time, we've been hitting the street day in, day out to show that people are against you. And that's the only way you could end fascism. You cannot end fascism just by voting it out. It's by hitting the street in millions. And that's what we see now. We need to keep the momentum going. Otherwise, you might fail like how we failed. We couldn't vote him out, guys. Let's end fascism across every single state. You look at top 3 states, top 3 countries with the most coronavirus. What do they have in common?
Fascism!
Exactly. They're not capable of governing us. They're not capable of doing what's good to us. And they won't walk out easily unless people show them that we don't want them in office. Thank you.
And if we come out and demand justice and we keep getting crushed and they keep getting tear gas and fucking rubber bullets on us and telling us we can't do this, that is fascism clamping down. We cannot live in a world like that. I refuse to live in a world like that, and I'm not gonna stop. So we gotta call on people. If we want a new future, if we don't want to live under fascism, we are gonna have to do the uncomfortable thing and stay in these streets. We are not going back to normal, y'all. I'm sorry, that shit is not happening. There is no normal, and it wasn't okay anyway. Normal was not okay anyway, and we're not going back to that. We have a pandemic right now that's getting no better under a fascist regime and the possibility of no election. So we are going to have to do this. So I'm calling on you to call on others, and we need to hit these streets. So we've already announced, yeah, give it up. We're going to hit these streets. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Are we here for the fight? Are we here to unite? Are we here for the fight? Are we here to unite? Good. I just want to touch on 2 things real quick. I want to touch on
and high impact. When I say that, I mean we need to come together united, because black lives won't matter, brown lives won't matter, trans lives won't matter until Trump and Pence are out of office. We cannot wait these 100 days to vote, because he is not waiting 100 days to take away the little freedom that we have left. He is trying to silence us. He's trying to get done with us and our voices being at home. There is no science that says that us being at home will not qualify as a significant vote to get him the hell out of office, right? So just to touch a little bit on the kind of people that are out here fighting for you and with you. I'm 32 years old. I'm the mother of a 6-year-old autistic boy. My son is Haitian, Dominican, and Puerto Rican, but he looks like a little white boy. So he has white boy privilege. I've been fighting the system since he was 2.5 years old just to get him services. And now I'm here fighting the system to make sure that him, his brothers, his cousins, his nieces, and his nephews can walk down the street and not be harassed. Can walk down the street or can sit in their cars and be able to sleep and not worried about dying while they're doing that. And the only way we are going to be able to achieve any of this is if we get all of these stupid motherfuckers that don't give a fuck about us, these racist ass pigs, these fascists that are in office out. How are we going to do that? With consistency. We cannot stop. They're consistently killing us. We cannot stop hitting these streets. They are consistently killing us. So what do we need? Consistency. What do we need? Consistency. What do we need? Consistency. Trump, Pence, out now. Trump, Pence, out now. So organizations, please, I ask that you have low egos and high impact. Let's unite. Let's sit down. Let's break bread. Let's unite with this one message that in order for us to achieve our independent goals, Trump and Pence must be the fuck out now.
As she said, my name is Travis Morales. I've been fighting this system for 52 years. I've been a revolutionary communist for 45 years. I've been arrested over 25 times because of my political activities. Four times on felonies down in my home state of Texas, where they tried to put me away for 140 years, accusing me of leading a rebellion in 1978 after the police murdered Jose Campos Torres. And we walked. And my whole life experience in studying science has brought me to the conclusion it is going to take revolution, nothing less, to get to a better world. Let me ask you something. Raise your hands. How many of you saw that video, 8 minutes and 46 seconds, of that pig with his knee on George Floyd's neck? How many of you saw that? As long as this white supremacist fascist is in the White House, do you really think black lives are going to matter with Trump in office? No! Do we have to drive out this white supremacist? Yes! Do we got to get in the streets in our millions? Yes! Do we got to demand Trump, Pence out now? Yes! Trump, Pence out now! Trump, Pence out now! How many of you saw that tweet where Trump talked about postponing the elections? How many of you saw that? Do you realize this is fascism on the march? This is fascism. And listen to his words. He's telling you what he wants to do. On June 26, he signed an executive order. It's called the Executive Order on Protecting Americans, Monuments, Memorials, and Statues and Combating Recent Criminal Violence. Well, what kind of fucking monuments is he talking about? He's talking about monuments to General Robert E. Lee, General Stonewall Jackson, the President of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, white supremacist monuments and statues, symbols of slavery. Do we want those monuments to come tumbling down? Yes. Are we going to pull them down? Yes. Are we going to pull Trump down from office? Yes. Listen to his word. Listen to this bullshit. When he's talking about people pulling down these statues, many of the rioters, arsonists, and left-wing extremists who have carried out and supported these acts have explicitly identified themselves with ideologies such as Marxism that call for the destruction of the United States system of government. Anarchists and left-wing extremists have sought to advance fringe ideology that paints the United States of America as fundamentally unjust and has sought to impose that ideology on Americans through violence and mob intimidation. What is he telling you when he goes on to talk about people who participate or at rallies and demonstrations where these monuments are pulled down are going to face 10 years in prison? He's telling you that your belief, if you have such a belief that this country is fundamentally unjust, that you want to change all this, but that's a crime. And what is he doing about it? He's threatening to send 50,000 of the kinds of thugs we've seen in Portland. He's threatening to send 50,000 of these same kinds of thugs to places like Chicago, Detroit, Kansas City, Albuquerque, to cities that are governed by Democratic mayors. Now, think about it. What is it going to mean? What is it going to mean when there's 50,000 of these fascist thugs, many of them from the Border Patrol, who've proven their loyalty to Trump, proven their violence, proven their thuggery by putting little children in cages at the border? Don't you think it's a little more than a coincidence that they're looking at thousands and possibly hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people taking to the streets in the coming months, especially if Trump tries to steal this election? Well, they're preparing. They're preparing to crush us. He's said this movement needs to be crushed. Are we going to allow this movement to Black Lives Matter to be crushed?
No!
Are we going to allow this movement demanding Trump gets out now to be crushed?
No!
Are you going to join us in the streets?
Yes!
Because look, it can't just be today. It just can't be tomorrow. We got to be out of the streets in our millions. In non-violent protest, but determined protest, day after day, like they did in South Korea a few years ago, like they did in Egypt about 8 years ago, like they did in Puerto Rico last year, where they drove out their governor, like they've done in other countries. We can do that here. Join with me. Trump pants out now.
Trump pants out now.
Trump pants out now.
Trump pants out now.
This is a good turnout today, but we need thousands of people. You need to be talking to everybody you know, saying, asking everybody do you accept a fascist America?
No!
Do you accept a fascist America?
No!
Then you got to be part of refusefascism.org. So let's end with this. 2 chants. No matter where you're coming from, if you're a revolutionary communist like me, an anarchist, you're in DSA, you're a Democrat, or even if you're a Republican that's somehow grown a heart, you need to be with Refuse Fascism. We have one unifying demand. Trump pants out now. And if you agree with that, let's work together. So let's finish this up with 2 chants. First one, fuck Trump.
Fuck Trump!
Fuck Trump.
Fuck Trump!
Trump pants out now.
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 How many folks are ready to march? All right. So I'm gonna make this a quick 2-minute rap. So time me if you need to. How many people understand that we're living under a fascist fucking America? And if you're sick of this shit, make some noise right now. Look, I just came from Queens at a protest that was organized by China Mac and others in response to an 89-year-old woman who was slapped and then set on fire.
What?
This was an 89-year-old Chinese woman. And you think about this rash of xenophobia that's been whipped up from the top, calling this shit a Chinese virus, and a spike of anti-Asian violence across the world. At the same time, you had the COVID pandemic raging through America, 150,000 people dead, while in the midst of the largest demonstrations to demonstrate that Black Lives Matter, while Trump is calling those people terrorists. Think about this system that we live under that drives people apart. This is a system where black people, Chinese people, white people, Latinos grow up in the same neighborhood, but they're taught to hate each other. It is the system that is responsible for this shit. If you know that's the truth, I mean, you say revolution, nothing less.
Revolution, nothing less.
What does it take to get out of this mess?
Revolution, nothing less.
What does it take to get out of this mess?
Revolution, nothing less.
Look, people here are so beautiful and diverse. Make some noise for yourselves. This is exactly the type of unity that we need in order not just to drive out this fascist regime that's whipping up xenophobia and white supremacy, that's advancing a fascist agenda, that's arresting protesters in Portland, calling Black Lives Matter protesters terrorists, and sweeping people off their streets right here in fucking New York City. This is the kind of movement that we need. But I gotta lay it out to you, brothers and sisters. We have to mobilize every non-violent means to drive this motherfucker out of the White House. Day after day protests, night after night protests. And not just that. We actually have to fight to bring into being a world where not just Black Lives Matter, but where women can walk down the street without fear of misogyny, can look a man right the fuck in the eye, without fear of being catcalled, with no more of these divisions between black, white, Latino, and Asian communities. None of these divisions between the first world and the third world. No more borders of this world or these wars for empire. No more of this shit. We have to be the people that bring an end to this. And we in the Revolution Club, we uphold 6 principles about organizing a movement for revolution. And I want to invite each and every one of you to step into that. Because that's what it's going to actually take to end racial injustice and oppression in America. A lot of people will tell you these are separate struggles. That black people need to fight for Black Lives Matter. That you need to leave Trump and Pence out of this. That you need to leave capitalism out of this. Well, you tell me, how the fuck are you going to end racial injustice under capitalism imperialism? Oh wait, you tell me, how are Black lives gonna matter when you have a fucking fascist white supremacist, the last Confederate statue standing right in the White House? How will Black lives matter then? How will Asian lives matter then? How will immigrant lives matter then? How will trans lives matter then? It's gonna take all of us, say it with me. It's gonna take all of us. It's gonna take all of us to drive these motherfuckers out. And make a revolution that brings a whole new world into being. I want to read these 6 principles to you guys. Is that all right? Because these are the principles that we actually need to be living for and fighting for right now. The first is we fight for the highest interest of humanity. The world comes first. We fight for revolution and communism because that's actually the society that can actually ensure that people of all different kinds can live lives of worthy human beings. Number 2, we fight for a world where all the chains are broken. Women, men, and differently gendered individuals are equals and comrades. We do not tolerate verbally abusing women or exploiting women as sexual objects. We do not tolerate jokes about a person's gender or sexual orientation. Enough with that bullshit. We fight for a world without borders, with equality amongst different peoples, languages, and nationalities. We do not tolerate jokes or insults about where a person comes from or whatever language they speak. We stand with the most oppressed, and we never lose sight of their ability to make revolution. And we work to win people of all backgrounds to be part of this movement. Number 5, we fight for and search for the truth. I'm going to say that one more time. We fight for and search for the truth, no matter how unpopular. And we learn from the insights, observations, and criticisms of all people. And number 6, we are going for an actual overthrow of this system. Say it with me, overthrow. We are going for an actual overthrow of this system. And because we are serious, we do not initiate violence, and oppose all violence among the people and between the people. So if those are principles that you feel like you should fight for, that you feel like you should live for, I'm inviting you to step on up right now. Step right on up to join and be a part of the Revolution Club, to come and get connected and organized with the Revolution Club, with the leadership of Baba Thakian that can actually break us through to revolution and make not just Black Lives Matter, but every fucking human being live a life worthy and of dignity and a life worthy of human beings. So come on up. I'm inviting you right now.